Awful night last night. I had just so many nightmares. I had like really terrifying nightmares of shit being done to me by governments, and I know it doesn't mean that anything's real or anything that's going to happen to me, but it was just like it's just to show you how it impacts into your consciousness, But I hope you're all keeping well today. Some sad news. Alan Watt from Cutting Through the Matrix passed away recently. And Alan Watt, if you don't know who he was I did a few shows with him a while back. One on how the music industry is basically, a psychological control mechanism, and also on the whole fake alien thing. You know my feelings on that. Not that I don't believe in aliens. I just don't. I just believe that there's been a vested interest in replacing Christianity, particularly in places like America, with the whole thing of aliens arriving as a new kind of Jesus Christ. And this has been very carefully orchestrated. And it's still going on. There's those new Navy footage things. I'm not saying there aren't strange phenomena. Of course there is, UFOs and everything. But governments have used that for their own, their own purposes. I wrote an article about Roswell, of how it was used to quell fears about the Russians getting the hydrogen bomb, and by making Americans think they had spaceman technology to fight the commies. But they've always done this, and that was the great gift that Alan Watt brought to alternative media. He was probably the first really kind of prosaic, uh, realistic voice in the post Bill Cooper era. So he must have been on the air for about 20 years now, and he was the first one to talk about things like the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, and the Bilderbergs were really about the re-engineering of society into a scientific and a psychological dictatorship. And he was way ahead of the game there. Now I knew about this stuff because, funny enough, I read about all this many years ago, back in the 80s and 90s, in magazines like Mother Jones and Utney Reader. And those magazines, if you read, I don't know if they're still going. I know Mother Jones is. If you were to read those magazines today, they'll tell you that they'd call the same things they wrote about in the 90s conspiracy theory. This is the funny thing. They were the ones who told me about, that's how I found about the CFR and the Bilderbergs and the Trilaterals was through those magazines. What they really were, because you read about them in the New York Times, but you didn't tell you what they were really about. But Alan Watt, through his very good diction, a very confident speaking voice, and his delivery, very that kind of Scottish dour thing. I don't mean I'm not degenerating Scottish people. I'm just saying that that like sort of like that kind of Scottishness. He delivered it very very well from his home in Canada to people who didn't know about it, and he was also so he was probably the first of the grown up truthers. You know what I mean? The ones that weren't like waving their arms around and going "Makadapista" and all this kind of stuff. He was the first one to actually go in there like a real journalist, I guess. A commentator, and he was the first one of those that wasn't a lunatic. Wasn't hysterical or a mad Christian or something like that. And so he reached a lot of people. He was a colossus, really, when you think about it. And he he stuck to the same thing basically, and it could be grim at times. But look at the world we live in. He wasn't lying at anybody, was he? He was also the first one I can remember to get the wrath of the mentally ill truthers. Anyone who knows this is one of the reasons I have nothing to do with truthers. Is so many of them are mentally ill. There's so much mental illness among that scene, and it's an evangelical mental illness that if you say one little thing or two little things they don't like, they'll spend the next 2 or 3 years trying to destroy it. I mean, this is like the kind of this is this is what's refreshing about the scene we have now. And the anti-lockdown scene doesn't seem to be there, but he was the first one to ever get hassled like badly that way. And for what reason? Like they'd be saying things like he was a Satanist, which is just the typical mentally ill truther type stuff. And so anyway, but he stuck to his guns, and he's a proven truth speaker. I could put him, and He was the first one to properly outlay the things, the perniciousness of the Fabian Society and H.G. Wells and people like that, and what these people were really about. And one thing he did was the thing on sports. He pointed out that sports are a mechanism by which men don't become adults, and women don't, and soap operas were for women who were a way of not becoming motherhood mavens, as we call them in the kind of classical sense. And so he was very good. He's very good with all that stuff. So I don't know what the circumstances of his death was. If he was ill or not, but that was someone whose name will be remembered, and should, quite rightly. And the few shows I did for him, he was just like what he is on the air. He's just Mr. Matter of Fact kind of thing. But that was a needed voice. That was the counterbalance to Alex Jones, screaming and waving his arms. And I can remember, like, I think he was even on an Alex Jones show, and you'd have Alan Watt doing his thing, and then Alex Jones going, the way he likes to finish people's sentences for them, and continue, and then Alan Watt would come in. It would be like. Listening to a death metal concert followed, dead and stop, and then it's like a Gregorian chanting, and Gregorian chanting. But yeah, that's someone whose life should definitely be celebrated. And God knows how many people he woke up, but just by the longevity and sticking to his guns. But yep, scientific and psychological dictatorship was what he basically pushed. And God rest the man, he was 100% right. 100% right. And like poor Ian, it's a shame we're losing these warriors in this part of the battle, it's a shame that they couldn't be around to be on the other side, but that's our job. We carried on to the other side. The battles for Helm's Deep was over. The battle for Middle Earth has begun. That's the stage we're at now. And I was watching John Waters in an interview yesterday with that. Forgive me, I forget the chap's first name. His second name is Collins. He's a really good presenter down in Limerick, and I think he's on the. He does podcasts and interviews people. He has a tricolour behind him, but he's very good. Very very likable character, personality. But he was interviewing John Waters last night. I'm sorry I forgot your name. If you're watching this, don't be offended. I had a rough night last night, but you know who you are anyway. But uh, John was talking about in his eloquent way. He talks about this concept of the police have to the Garda in Ireland have to basically end when this is over, and I think that's probably part of the plan. I would say that, I mean, this is what if you're in the Garda watching this now, like, first of all, let me tell you how people should deal with the Garda, and this is how you in your country deal with your own police force. But in Ireland, we have the Garda are a different kind of police. They're more like a paramilitary thing. They come out of the gendarmerie of the French and Belgians, and the Guardia of Spain. They're Republican guards basically. So they're a bit different than we don't have bobbies, we don't have coppers in Ireland, and the police here have they're kind of a very strong force. Like I said, they're like a quasi military almost. They are really that they were founded to like hold up a republic in the early days along with the army, but they're not bobbies. They're not English bobbies. And I try to explain this to my English friends. Like, you don't deal with the police. The police in England are much more relaxed and laid back because we don't have like community policing here. We have a national thing. There's no like Sligo police or Dublin police or anything. They're a national. They're like an army. And I was in Shannon Airport a few years ago. I was going some to England, and the flight was from Ireland West Airport at Knock, and it had been diverted because of the fog. The mountain's on top of an airport. It's kind of weird, but it's actually when it was open, it was a fantastically handy airport, but great little airport, and so they diverted flights to Shannon, and then we had to go through Shannon immigration thingy again, and the the Garda run the immigration things at the airports here, and there was a female Garda, we call them Bangardee here, and in Irish, and there was a Scottish guy in front of me, and he'd obviously had missed the connection to get, and he was like furious, and he was furious that he had to take it, take a 2 hour bus transfer down to Shannon, and he started ragging on the Garda, the female Garda, and I was going. He thought he was dealing with airport security like you get in the UK, and I was like, this kind of thing. She just picks up the phone and says something in Irish, like assistance or something. Next thing, he's downstairs, a pair of handcuffs on him, and that's what it's like. They've a lot more power than like, and that's why if you're coming here from England, you're not dealing with bobbies. You're dealing with a different kind of police force, and so anyway, John Waters was saying that they should be ended after this. I think that could be part of the plan. I think and maybe even the defence forces too. There's a story in the paper the other day on the cover of the Irish Mirror, and it said the Garda were probing a paedophile ring among army officers in the Irish Defence Forces. And I'm like, what the hell is that about? Out of nowhere. Now, part of me thinks that someone in government set the Garda on the army because they wanted to maybe make sure if there was anything blew up in this country, would the army take the side of the people, or would the army take the side of the government? And apparently morale has been low in the army for a long time because of they haven't, the pay is not that good and stuff like that compared to compared to the Garda or other branches of government. So I don't know. There's a conspiracy theory is that they're sending a warning shot to the army now that if anything goes down, you better not take the side of the people. I don't know. I'm just saying this, but it's like the fact that they set the Garda on the army, it's like the Civil War again, and it's exactly 100 years to the Civil War. That's the weird thing about it. 1921, 22. 1920 to 22, the Civil War, around that time. Here we are again, exactly a century later, and you see that kind of, and nothing more I heard of that. It was just in the paper. So that could be a funny thing. So they could be making them dance the Jerusalem and all that stuff, and those videos could be a way of the government burlesquing the Garda. As if to say, look at them, they're clowns, and are they a viable police force? And there could be a plan behind the scenes to have a new, like they did in Northern Ireland, they had the RUC, and they replaced it with the PSNI, the Police Service of Northern Ireland, because the RUC had a very bad reputation. I don't know anything about Northern Ireland. I'm sure there was lots of decent men and women in the RUC as well, but they're portraying the Garda in a similar way now here. And I'm just, I don't know. It's like this could be all part of the big plan to bring in this multi-ethnic police force. If you look at one institution in Ireland that's like completely Irish, it's probably the Garda. And this could be their way of destroying it and to bring in a multi-ethnic police force. And a really multi-ethnic police force, not just a few token immigrants here and there. And you do wonder. Now, I'm seeing a lot of things about in the anti-lockdown movement, a lot of anger towards the Garda, and I would say, if you're dealing with the Garda, don't start trouble. Don't start trouble. They're human beings like us, and many of them could be upset about all this too as well, and. If you're dealing with them on a personal basis, just be respectful and be polite, and don't do crazy shit like this Freeman of the land crap and all that. That doesn't work. It never works anywhere. And don't be shouting slurs at them and stuff like that. And that's the best way to deal with that. Remember, it's really the civils behind the blue line, their blue line, eyes on the prize, the civil service and the government. That's the ones who are really imprisoning you, not the Garda. they're just the bouncers on behalf of them, and so don't that there's all kinds of games going on here. There's all kinds of funny games going on. But I was watching the interview with John Waters yesterday, and at the end of it, the first expression that came into my mind was, "Where is love?" Have you noticed that? This is not just Ireland, this is the whole world now, this whole lockdown and COVID thing. Where is love gone? Love is gone. Is this part of their agenda as well? Now, when I say love is gone, I mean, of course, like there are people, families and couples and that kind of thing, and people, friends who still love each other and stuff like that. But there's the lockdown prevents people from meeting and falling in love. That's a so you don't have. They're almost like creating an interruption of a generation that don't know what it's like to dating and falling in love and stuff like that, and having girlfriends and boyfriends because they're locked up. They can't travel a certain distance. It's like that. It's like where's the love? Where's the love thing? I see all these things about everything to do with every aspect of the COVID and the lockdowns and all the crisis and everything, but the word love never comes into it. You ever notice that? Or any kind of feeling of love is completely absent, and that's now not among like us. I mean, I feel the oceans of love from you guys, and I hope you feel it from me. We feel this love that that found each other here. But I'm talking about in the whole general society. Like the way they love the dancing police, the heroes, the front lines. They love them, but that's not real love. That's like someone on a sinking ship falling in love with the life raft. That's what that is. They're someone on a sinking ship falling in love with the life raft. That's what that kind of love for the frontline workers is. It's just they're all terrified they're going to die, and they might. And that was another thing John brought up last night, that all the people he knows that are the most fanatic, branch Covidians are all atheists. They're terrified of dying. They're terrified of dying because this is what the advantage that Christian people and pagans like myself and Hindus and other people like that. Well, Hindus are pagans really, but we have is that we know that this is that we're beyond this. This is not just us. We know we're not robots, and we know that there's a survival of the consciousness, but where Christians believe that, and this is something I'll talk about in a minute. The Christians believe the whole thing. You go to heaven and you're rewarded, and you meet up with your loved ones and stuff, and that's a very appealing idea, I might say. Pagans, but generally, nearly universally, well, in the European pagans anyway, you reincarnated and you come back into a different body, but you still have memories of the old life, and then they show up in dreams, or people you meet again. And there's also European pagans believe in the racial soul. So there's also, not only do you have the soul of yourself, okay, you have the universal soul, which is like the whole Maya thing, like the whole god of the god, and then you'd have in Hinduism, and then you have the racial soul. Now the racial, this is a hugely politically incorrect thing, but it's true. You have a racial soul as well, and so like you know so like my ancestry is mostly I'm not going to say English and Irish because it goes back further than that. It's Celtic, Gaelic, Anglo-Saxon, uh, Anglo-Saxon Germanic, and Celt-Iberian. So I have, and many Northern Europeans are very fortunate in that we can draw upon our racial souls. So we have in our heritage Celtic, Nordic, and some have Goths, some have Roman, Latin. So it goes back even further. But that aspect of your personality travels with you into your like. I won't be reborn. I won't be reborn as a Muslim, or I won't be reborn as a Jew, or I won't be reborn as a Lutheran. I'll be reborn as someone, I could be reborn as something that'd be like pagan-esque. So it'd be like even agnostics, I suppose. You could come back that way, but I'll still have the same racial soul as those my ancestors. And that's a very powerful thing in paganism. Was one of the things one of the reasons paganisms were destroyed, wiped out, was because of the belief in the racial soul, because that flew in the face of what the Abrahamics teach. That the whole that we're all one, and this kind of thing. And we're not. My previous incarnations were Celtic, Germanic, Anglo-Saxon, and Celtiberian, and my future ones will be the same. And this is how culture travels from through the tribes and beyond. And that's not to say we're sectarian about it. I mean, pagans are the most open people in the world. Every pagan will have Jewish, Muslim, black, white friends, partners. They'll have families with them even, but they've no control over the soul part of it. And I don't know how that developed, but it definitely is real. And the other part, that was the main thing. That's one of the things that pagans were crucified for. Well, they were crucified, but they were persecuted for. And the other one was the magic. If you have to believe in magic if you're a pagan, and what that means is hacking that human beings have an ability within their nervous system and their consciousness to actually change the nature of not the fundamental, but change aspects of reality. And this is why it was a huge prohibition by the Abrahamics, because the Abrahamics forbid magic going right back. And remember, they all came from pagans as well. And so the thing of, like, there's no love there, there's no love. And love is falling apart, and then there's people who probably did love each other before the lockdown began, but now they're, a couple maybe, and now they're probably, the first thing they'll do when the lockdown is over, go to a divorce lawyer, because they just can't stand being around each other all the time. Where if there was no lockdown, they would have had a balanced lifestyle where they wouldn't have to be in each other's face, driving each other mad, this kind of thing. And again, like, there's no one's getting out there, teenage girls aren't meeting their boyfriends, and boyfriends aren't meeting their girlfriends, and that's to go all through life. People, dating age, people are finding, they're killing love. They're killing love in every single way and replacing it with the state. They're replacing God with the state. And that's why all these atheists, they're all so pro lockdown and pro government policy, is because they've replaced. You hear Christians say things. Oh well, the modern world, man becomes God. No, the state becomes God. The government, the administration becomes God for those types, and. This is worrying, because this is genocides usually come out of this. This is the Bolsheviks. This is the Khmer Rouge. This is the Chinese Cultural Revolution. This is a very worrying thing. You see, one of the reasons why lefties, I know I'm meandering. I know I get on. I try to. But this is just how my mind thinks. So, bear with me. I'm sorry if it's boring, but. One of the reasons why lefties love the coronavirus is because it has reduced humanity to statistics. You see, the only way that Marxism, Leninism, Trotskyism especially, Trotskyism is the real foundation of modern socialistic and communistic thought. Trotskyites, the only way that can survive in a human society, because it's completely unnatural, is if you strip humans of their humanity and you replace them with statistics. What Joe Stalin said. I think it was him. One death is a tragedy, a million deaths is statistics. That's why lefties love the lockdown, because they've we didn't have, when they say so many people were infected today, or so many people died. They put it on the evening news and they get how many died, how many, got asymptomatic and all this shite. They love that, because they're not human beings they're mentioning on the TV news. They are statistics. And it's the only way the leftist mind can function is if it destroys humanity and love, and replace it with the statistical analysis. And that's why they also love climate change. They love the climate change charts and this kind of thing. And the leftist mind doesn't, because the leftist is dead inside. This is, this is why they also from depression and some of the suicide rates. They're dead inside and they're unfulfilled. But they think that by making life a matter of statistics, they can have a utopia in which they won't be miserable. And that's why lefties love the Rona, because it's full of statistics. This is the infection rate. This is the asymptomatic rate. This is the numbers. This is the threshold for the PRC test. They love all that. Because nowhere in a voluminous pile of statistics is the human soul. It doesn't exist in that. It is not in there. And this is what's happened to people. And they have replaced the human soul with hard data. And this is all you have to look at. Soulless the people are. All those horrible monsters in Trinity College in Dublin are. They don't. All they see is statistics. They don't see souls. They don't see lives. They don't see anything like that. Ferguson, he's Mr. Statistics. He's like the Pope of statistics. Private life, that's his own business. I'm talking about I don't care about people's private. I don't give a shit about people's private or what consenting adults do. That's their, whatever they do. That's their own. That's the thing. That's one thing that's totally unimportant. Yeah, when they fucking rape kids and stuff, then it's a big deal. And when consenting adults do, I don't care what they do in their underpants is their own business. And so, but the soul is gone. It's been taken from it because it's been replaced by statistics. So therefore, where you might have had, in a spiritual society, you would have rituals, like an evening prayer, or this kind of thing. That's been replaced with an evening bunch of statistics on the news of the latest infection rates and all this kind of thing. And so God, when I say God, I'm not talking about the Christian God or any, the whole concept, this God essence, whatever. That's pulled away and the God of statistics is pushed in instead. And that's why lefties absolutely love this lockdown and this whole thing, the whole Rona thing. And the climate changing, it's all statistics. They love all that stuff. Because now, I want to tell you a story about a lefty that kind of came into my sphere. Do you remember about, I don't know, those of you who've been following me for a long time, when Russell Brand appeared on Newsnight, I think it was 2014 or something like that, and he said something like, we got to Jeremy Clarkson, we got to take all the money off the rich and distribute to spiritual socialism and this kind of bullshit, park life and this thing. And the next morning, I looked at that and then I wrote an article about Russell Brand is a middle class bullshitter or something like that, and then outlined why it was full of shit. Well, the next morning I woke up, all the truthers were all madly in love with Russell Brand, and he was suddenly their new savior. They always have a new savior, the truthers, because the Christian mind virus. No offense to Christians, but what I'm talking about, and it's the savior, the need for a savior, and well, I got absolutely fucking arse raped on social media by all these people. How dare you say that about Russ? Russ is lovely. He's going to save us for spiritual socialism. Yeah, and all this kind of thing, right? And Jesus, it was ferocious. But I came up with this concept called the purple pill, where you don't get the red pill or you don't get the blue pill, you get a purple pill, where it's pretending you're awake, but you're not really, you're still in the system. And I said that's what he represents. He's like a state sanction, and he still is like that. You look at his YouTube videos keep coming up as my recommendations. I don't want the content anywhere near me, and it's like they still keep coming up on my feed, even though I say not interested. But he talks a lot of shite as usual. He says nothing to him, mostly airhead New Agers and this kind of thing. But this is a guy who said, we all have a past, but this is a guy who said, a year before he went, spiritual socialism was on the Jonathan Ross show, and he said something like he got Andrew Sachs, the actor, was on the phone on the radio show, and he said he fucked his granddaughter up the arse. I mean, that's the kind, you don't say that to someone about the granddaughter. But anyway. I'm not judging him as a person. I'm just saying what he represents. I don't know what kind of person he really is, except he's a hypocrite. Talking about socialism and living in 4 millionaires' house, having 10 houses and stuff like that worth millions. But he I got hammered for that. I got really fucking raped through, and all these people friending me saying like, these all these smug type lefties. But there was this guy, he had left a comment on the blog post, and he didn't have a go at me, but he was like, he was defending Russell Brand quite, and I knew he was educated. But I was an educated person thinking that Russell Brand is about, and then I go onto his page, and it turns out he was like a university lecturer somewhere in England, some like what's your man, not that quite bad, Professor Gideon the micro penis, yeah, that chap, that very funny guy, but it was like literally that without the nastiness. But I was reading his blog post, and he'd reviewed a Russell Brand comedy show. And in the comedy, and at the, you start about, this was proper communism. There was no sexism, no racism, no misogyny, just proper good communism expressed as stand. And I'm like, is this how you think? You go to a stand-up comedy show and you only rate it according to how it is, that it's good communism? And he said in the article, the revolution still hasn't happened. And I was despondent about it. But seeing Russell Brand really, really brought home to me that communism is viable and will triumph. And I'm like, this guy is delusional. But then he also had some very good articles on his page. And I was like, what a shame that this guy is a lefty, because he's got so much going for him. And then a few years ago, I checked up to see if he's still doing this stuff. He committed suicide. Committed suicide. And it's because, like all lefties, there's no love. I mean, at the beginning of the movie, even if there's a good person in there, the statistics remove the love. And even at the beginning, in Dr. Zhivago, the guy goes, I don't like the Bolsheviks, they have no heart. And then he becomes a Bolshevik, and he's even worse than them. Uh, Sasha. And this is why they're obsessed with that. It's because they love the statistics. They're turned on by them. But like the lack of love, yeah. I mean, and I was just thinking, like, there's no, we hear all about, doctors and nurses are dying in the wards, dying, because there's so many bodies piling up from the Rona. This bullshit we've heard from day one. It's not true, not true at all. A despicable lie, despicable. And in amongst this, we're having an epidemic of suicide. Now, I was just thinking, it must be awful for a person who's living alone. Awful. And say, especially in the countryside, it's not so bad because you can get out, or a small country village, you can get out and get a bit of nature. But someone who's in a lockdown in an urban area, in say an apartment, that's just themselves on their own, and maybe their family died off, or they're in another country, or something like that. I just could not imagine those people, how their lives must be. And there's no love for them. None. Absolutely none. And it's like, there's countless millions of people living alone in towns and cities in an apartment, and they get up to this every fucking day. And I hope you find this channel, because you're not alone. You'll find there's a tribe out there that you do have a tribe, but the ones who don't find this, or things like this, I couldn't imagine the pain every day. Like, you must wake up thinking, what reason do I have to suffer through another day of this? And are these people even remotely considered in this? No. And that's who went really. If you look at the marchers in Dublin, especially, and it's a shame that fucking knob had to fire a rocket at the cop. But the rest, if you look at them, you get that impression a lot of them are people living alone in the city, in apartments. And they're just desperate for human contact. They're just desperate for it. And they want to know that they're not... It's because you think about it, they're a prisoner in a cell. Now, if there's a family you have a mammy and a daddy, or a couple, and there's kids, and they're all happy and loving, it would be lovely for them. It would still be stressful, though, because the parents still have to kind of like take care of their children's mental health during this kind of thing. But the ones living alone, and you see, this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to institutionalize everybody. So that's also the part of the why they want to kill love, why they want to kill love. Oh, and another thing too, I went on to some Irish anti-lockdown boards last night, and you're still fucking doing it. Stop calling politicians by their first name. Everything was Leo, Leo, Simon, Simon, Mihal, Mihal, Tony, Tony. This is how they make you your livestock. They fucking love it when you call them by their first names because they're not your mates, but they know there's an element of protection that you won't have your full anger towards them if you call them by their first names. Always call these cunts by their second names. It's like garlic to a vampire with Irish politicians. Because when you call them, by their surnames or formally Minister this or that kind of thing, or Mr. or Mrs. this Miss, they hate it. Because then they know you're no longer in their livestock herd. I couldn't believe it last night. It was just like the water pro. Leo, Miha, Simon, Simon, Tony. Oh, for fuck's sake, stop it! Will you stop it? Get out of the slave. Get out of the paddy plantation. The doll plantation, and stop calling them by their first names. It does my head in when I see that still going on. The first act of any kind of revolutionary, or I wouldn't say revolutionary, but any kind of new movement in Ireland to cause change, the first act on the minutes at the very top, stop calling these fuckers by their first names. That should be at the very, very top. At the very top. It's still going on. It was pissing me off when I saw it last night. I kept my mouth shut though. But that's probably what I had the fucking nightmares about. And But there's also a strong sadomasochistic element to this as well. A lot of these politicians have been turned on. They're being sexually turned on, not just here in Ireland, but in your countries as well. They're being sexually turned on by locking us down. It's a whole subdom thing going on there. No doubt about that. This is why I was smear when I say, well, we can't end the lockdown so quickly. You see a lot of that kind of thing. I don't know, it may go on for another few years. And they're actually being sexually aroused by, say, a woman in her 40s who's not married, who lives alone in an apartment, and it's only because she has a cat. It's the only reason she hasn't killed herself. She has to take care of the cat. Cats are heroes and will be heroes when this is all over. We're like worshipping cats again, like in ancient Rome. That's what that'll be like. But yeah, and it's like, I might have to, what, a man living alone with no family or whatever, whatever, not married or anything, and, he's sitting there going, I wish, I want to get back to my job, I want to get back to my life. I want to do things again. I want to have to go and do things again. Hearing, like a politician going, we might have an indefinite lockdown in the smirk, and that kind of thing. That's evil. This is why these fuckers are evil. You have to remember that. They're evil. And they're evil because they lack love, and they get because there's no internal world that seeks love. They seek power, and power is through things like this, the BDSM thing they have going on with us. The lockdown is not, anyone thinks they're still locked down because of a virus. It's a fucking, I mean, I'm trying to be as kind as possible, but you see, I know another thing too. I see. I don't think we're going to get a lockdown stopped in Ireland this summer. Remember I said last week in England that they extended the furloughs until September, the end of September, and I said, "Oh, that's as good as telling you you're not going to be opened up in the 21st of June." In Ireland, the delaying tactic is, sure, we didn't get enough vaccines yet. We were supposed to get 1 million vaccines this week, and we only got 800,000. So, that's what they're going to use here to delay it. And then that's what they're going to use the lack of vaccines to stop opening up. They're going to say, well, we were planning to open up on July 1st, but that was only watch this. This press conference will happen. You watch me now, right? Irish politician on stage. Well, we were planning. They all have nasal voices, probably from snorting coke. In eating ass. Well, we were planning to open up. We were planning to open up on the 1st of June, Smirk. But That was based on the criteria, on the statistical data. Now, we were going to have 80% of the population vaccinated. But because there has been a problem with the supply chains of vaccinations, we have to lock down for another 3 months. We will review again when back in the end of September, when we will have a better set of data and statistics and how infection rates in the community. Today, we know it's hard for people, but we can't have people's grannies dying. So it's much more preferable if we have people in the prime of their lives, ranging from 14 up to 54. It's much more preferable that they're, taking overdoses of sleeping tablets, hanging themselves with their shoelaces from the boots, and putting their head in the gas oven. It's much more preferable that happens than we take care. That they die, but as long as we take care of some geriatrics who'll be dead in 2 months anyway, it's more important that those 2 months of life are given to those geriatrics who, if you ask them about what the pandemic, they'll say something like, "Oh, I haven't seen that movie yet." That this kind of thing. They must save them. So I know people are hurting, but this is a global crisis, and sure, as Gandalf said in Independence Day, never have so few men can't handle the truth. Give us a bit of that elvish bread there, Frodo. Thank you. And then the media won't do. The fucking media won't, in any fucking way, will the media go, yo. Hold on a second. Let's talk about this. They'll be going, sanctify me with your. This is what the media does today. The media are fluffers. You know what a fluffer is? In porn movies, I wasn't a porn actor, but I worked for 2 weeks at a porn mag in New York when I was unemployed. I had to take work, and I was paid very, very well, and it was just magazine paste up and stuff. And even that sounds dirty, pasting up magazines, but it was digital, sorry. And so a fluffer is what they have in porn. A fluffer is women who arouse the male actor in the pre-Viagra days. So before Viagra, you had fluffers, and the fluffers would get the men ready for the scene. And so he could dive right in with, a thing that looked like a roll of wallpaper between his legs, a pink roll of wallpaper. And that's what the media do today. They're fluffers for the government and the establishment. That's all they do. They're fluffers for the establishment. And oh God, the stories I could tell you about when I was working in the early days of desktop publishing, the Macy's catalog, and the models, just me and the models sitting there, and they're in their nighties and their swimsuits, and we were just sitting there drinking coffee with the model. But great days and everything. But it's just funny. It's just funny how you remember, if you forget things that you did when you were growing up. But yeah, so like they're just fluffers for the government. That's all they are. And and anyone who says anything like, "Oh, hold on a second, you can't do your white nationalist." Today, some people connected to the far right, even though the only thing far right about them is their handwriting, are and most, I had to laugh. Christian Morris was right. They were in a collective nervous breakdown because when the video footage and the news footage and the photos of the marches in Cork came through, there was loads of black people and Asian Muslim looking people and Chinese. You're not supposed to say that, but they were. I mean, Hazel Chu, the Lord Mayor of Dublin, would probably have me up for that. She's proud of being the first Chinese mayor, Lord Mayor of Dublin, but she would probably say you can't tell people's race by looking at them. Even that's what they actually are like. These woke types. How do you know that? How did you know that? I remember seeing a Vietnam War memorial once, and I said, "You ever see the Vietnam War memorial with the two black guys and the white guy as GIs in Washington D.C.? It's amazing." And someone goes, "How did you know they were black?" And I go, "They." That they were trying to. This is a political rhetoric was trying to push me into a corner. How did you know they were black? Well, they had black features. Like what? And eventually I said, "Okay, how did you know they're black?" I said, "Look, one was holding a fucking basketball. Is that okay?" That kind of thing. That's it. That's literally how everything. The whole conversation was set up for me to be racist, no matter how I answered. I said, there was two black soldiers and there's an amazing bronze sculpture. And a white guy. How'd you know they were black? Because they look like black dudes in America, African Americans. How do you know? There were statues. It could be anybody. They're all coloured bronze. So anyway, Hazel Chew, which sounds like a fucking candy bar, Hazel Chew. Uh, she she literally steps. She literally Hazel Chew, the Lord Mayor of Dublin. She literally wakes up in the morning and goes, "Who's who will be racist to me today? They don't like me because they don't like having a Chinese woman as the Lord Mayor of Dublin." And the people, nobody cares about you. You're not that important. We don't care about you. They don't think about your race or your ethnic background or anything. You're just not. She's desperate for attention. Hazel Chew bar. The Hazel Chew. It sounds like a fucking bar. Hazel Chew. It's CHU, not CHEW. But yeah, literally, that's her tweets are like hilarious. Oh, someone, someone said something to me today that was racist. What? I could just imagine like the Dublin Council chamber, right? The city chamber, the city hall, right? Lord Mayor, I'm from the traffic department. Yes, yes, yes. We need to we need to we need to improve the the road budget for street markings, road markings. Yeah. Especially the double yellow lines. You're a racist. You're a fucking racist. Yeah. The double yellow. We need yellow paint for the double yellow lines. And then the music goes to Twitter. Today in the council chamber, one of the people connected to the roads department was racially abused me. He asked for yellow paint for the double yellow lines. That's literally what she's like. These people, they spend their days and their nights looking to be offended. And no one cares that she's Chinese. No one cares. No one. It's all in her own mind. Nobody cares. It's like these people make an industry about. Isn't it interesting how they make an industry about the things they tell us we're not supposed to notice about them? You know, So it's like, you know, we were told, all my life, and something I believed in, that there's no such thing as color. I've had some fine black girlfriends over the years, and it wasn't because they were black; it's because they were fabulous women, and I wouldn't have any problem with any. We're all one. We were told, we were all one, and that was the way it was. I accepted that. I judge people on souls. That's what I judged them on, personality and things like that, and fuckers now they tell us that that amplifies it. Amplifies it. So it's like, you're supposed to see the person as long as you respect their culture. And I was like, I thought we were all one. And this is the whole thing. Like, I saw some guy, and he was like, oh Jesus, he was he was like, I don't know if he was a pagan, but he was complaining about pagans and cultural appropriation, and he was going, are you pagans who connect getting who are bringing in rituals and traditions from other other pagan traditions? You know what that's called, don't you? Cultural appropriation. This is what he was like. This is what he was like, and what he was arguing for ultimately was ethno-nationalism. He was trying to say that you should only worship or venerate the the traditions of your own ethnic background. And he says you can be interested, but you can't do it. But hold on a second, that's Christians all worship stuff from the Middle East. And there's like, but basically what he was calling for was sectarianism. That's what the rainbow flag is, sectarianism. It's not about we're all one and we should judge a person on their personality, the content of this. Martin Luther King, bang on the money, on the content of the character and not the color of their skin. And yet, what does he do? Cultural appropriation, this kind of thing. And it's like, you know, so it's like, what do you want to be? Do you want us to accept you as a soul, or do you want us to see you as being different? It's amazing how the woke have an identical, the role that they're on brings them to the same place, the Ku Klux Klan. And everyone who's not agreeing with them is far right. This is what they're like. Hey, Mary, yeah. Did you give us a blowjob tonight? No. Fucking bitches, far right. That's what they're like. That's what they're like. That's what it's like. It's like, hello, can I have the pepperoni pizza with the extra mozzarella toppings? Oh, we've no pepperoni left. We have sausage. Pepperoni left? Not this far right establishment anymore. Like anything it's everything is far right. You go out with your and you go out and it starts raining. You look up at the rain. They go, fucking far right clouds. Everything that pisses them off that questions their comfortable life is far right. Far right. And this is like ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. They were calling protesters that went to Dublin and Cork far right. Most of those people wouldn't even know what far right is. And like I said, like loads of them were, though I'm not supposed to notice, had different coloured skin. The world has gone insane. I don't know what happened, but it's gone insane. This end of days, but not end of days in the Christian sense. It's the end of the cycle, the end of the Kali Yuga, the end, the prophecy of the Babe fulfilled. It's happening. Christians can call it Revelations, whatever they call it, but Revelations actually happened at the time of the Emperor Nero. But this consciousness is going through the spin cycle now. And out the other side is going to be a much better place. It's probably going to last, I'm not saying lockdown, I mean, this whole strangeness will probably last about 2024, 25. And then we'll start getting normal again. But until then, I was just thinking, like there, Alan Watt cutting through the Matrix, boy, did he call it right. Scientific. If you haven't heard from him, go back and listen to his shows. Alan Watt. I repeat, no, don't. If you post, those of you who think I'm deleting your comments, I'm not. If you post a link in the comments, for some reason, YouTube deletes it, except if it's me, and so most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, and so go back and look for Alan Watt cut through the Matrix, and you'll find some really listen to stuff that he was saying in 2006, and you go, oh, Jesus Christ, he called the lockdown perfectly then scientific psychological dictatorship, based on keeping human beings afraid of the vitality of life. I always remember one of the things he said that always struck with me was that how psychiatry medicates people that are depressed, when depression is a form of a spiritual thing. It is, that's where the blues come from, blues music come from. Where do you think it comes from? And poetry. Would Sylvia Plath have written poems, like 1 year in every 10, or wrote the Bell Jar, if she was on Xanax? Think about it. Yeah, so, I mean, look after yourselves, take care of yourselves. Laugh at the absurdity of these people. Consciousness is going through the spin cycle at the moment. And, find enjoyment in your hobbies and your art. And if you're an artist, create like a motherfucker, like you never created before. And be show love. I'm going to say show love. I mean, like that, it's like when you hear a bunch of statistics, so many people have died. Think about all of the Rona. Think of the ones who've died of other things, and no one cares about them because they don't fit this leftist Marxist statistic ideology. Love, like the Todd Rundgren song, love is the answer. And it doesn't matter if you're pagan like me or Christian, atheist and agnostic, whatever. It's just, show that kindness, show that and like I said, if you're dealing with the officials, like the police, don't be antagonistic, don't get yourself in trouble, be, and also if you look in a shop and they say, don't start a fight if they throw you out or something like that for not wearing a mask. Just like I said, make a list of who, when this is all over, like I said, without being vindictive, make a list of who hurt you, but not to get revenge, just to avoid them. Because, again, I'll say this over and over again, greatest education ever. Take care of yourselves. Love yous. Bye.